And I was hoping that would look a lot cooler. So yeah, notice how sector time indicates in purple if it's your personal best. Okay, that's enough. So yeah, at the end of the session you get an overview of all the laps you did. Let's take a look at the lap timer itself. So when your current lap is set to the racetrack, it'll run this function every frame. So it will grab the time every time and the player location, and then it will check if that point is inside a specific a path element in the SVG file. I'll show in a second. So it will check if you have not yet set a sector time for the first sector line, and if you actually have a start time for this current lap. If it is, it'll push the time in there, and then it just makes a little message for the HUD system. And if you have more than one lap on the board, it will compare and see if you have a faster sector time there. If that's the case, it will hold the sector time. And here's a little timer to check that. After 7.5 seconds, it will remove the indicator and then go back to updating the current lap time. Let's see. So the same thing basically happens for the next sector time, except we compare a bunch of other stuff. Hold on. Yeah. What's that? And then the last one is the interesting one, because it will start a new lap if you haven't made any yet. And it will always basically end the lap if you have other sector times, earlier sector times set for this lap. And so it will, at the end of this function, always update the session lap times, which is basically just updating this piece of HTML so that we can, at the end of the session, we show that layer basically in the game. And so here's, yeah. If there's no flag set, then it will just constantly update, and if there's a hold sector time flag set, it will interrupt updating that for 7.5 seconds. Well, just some formatting. And here's a little table with the results basically. So let's take a look at how that works in Inkscape. Waiting. Okay, that's super. So I had decided we needed a dedicated layer for timing. So there's a group with an ID set to timing, and it has 3 children, and these are path elements. Here's a red one that's S1. So you start the lap here, you drive around here, hit sector 1, you continue, hit sector 2, and then you finish off sector 3. You do a query selector on this guy to find all the children. I'm gonna assume it'll always return in order. And so what you saw in the code is point in fill. You do is point in fill with the point, and that needs to be an SVG point for some reason. I'm not really sure because it really only contains these properties, but there's probably a good reason for it. Can't really be bothered to figure that out. So we can detect, this can go now, whether the player has entered basically inside this polygon. Not sure. Yeah, so there's 4 points. What I had wanted to do was use actual rectangles, but let me show you. Here's a rectangle basically with its coordinates and its size. But as soon as I rotate it, you get a transform, which in itself is fine, except it makes these values out of order. No, wait, the X and the Y. This has something to do with the origin point being here and it calculating it. And I can't convert it back into game world coordinates. Like, I'm sort of getting close, but you. It doesn't entirely work, even though I figured I would set the origin point of this element in the world to this location. But somehow it doesn't really pan out like that, and that's a real damn shame. So yeah, the code basically checks one by one if you're hitting these guys, and I think that's it. Yeah. So next up is ooh, that's pretty cool actually. Pseudo spatial audio. So there is a rudimentary multiplayer version through WebSockets, and I thought it would be funny to calculate the position of your multiplayer opponent relative to your position on screen, and then pan the audio from the opponent's engine accordingly. uh, let's see. So basically, because you have this little get distance bunch of functions, whatever math functions, so you can always compare two locations against each other and always make a square triangle in between those. I did some fiddling around, find out which ones work. So either you get the cosine or the sine of the angle between the two players. And really, that's it. Well, it was a whole bunch of work to get these functions to work. And the sad part is, I also wanted to do something to the level of your opponent's engine volume, but that seems to stay constant, which I'm probably making a mistake. And I guess I should have started here. So this is basically, you loop through all the opponents in the game. You check if you're colliding with them. If so, do a little puff of smoke. The start function just calls its update function, so it'll slowly fade out again, or progress between the frames and then reset itself. Here we're doing a bunch of calculations, which is probably, oh yeah, do a little bounce, I guess, because and then here we do we call get angle. It gives you an angle in degrees. So yeah, here I'm sort of calculating some arbitrary distance to the player where the volume should be 0. I think it doesn't. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't really work yet. It stays constant. I guess it's bound to the speed. Not entirely sure. But the panning actually does work. And here is a clip of that. Okay, so what's happening here is the red car is all the way on the left end of the map, a little bit above the blue dot, about to go onto the straight and then finish the lap, while the white car, that's kind of dimmed on the left screen, is at the bottom right end of the racetrack. So in order to figure out what I was doing, I started drawing a line between the player and the other multiplayer, and then using the cosine function, you figure out whether that's basically positive or negative. And so with that value, I can just change the panning node to move either to the left or right. Works pretty well. Yeah, I also did some updates to sprite system. Hold on. It will emit an HTML element for either the brake tracks or the smoke. And so because I've got HTML, I've got a lot more access to it with CSS than I would have drawing just a smoke particle on a canvas, basically. So instead of using the sprite image of smoke as an image, let me pull that up. For example, this one or that one. I'm using it as a CSS mask. And what that means is that I can now use these values on top of a color. So, for example, I could make fire as well, just by using the same image. Let's do it live. So, yeah, instead of using it as a background image, literally, it's pretty cool actually what you can do. But let's for now make it red. Ooh, it's not super visible. Oh, let me make it purple. Come on. So as soon as you're off track, it'll add the dust class instead of just the smoke to the same sprite, and it'll emit as. So now you can do your GTA car style club custom smoke. Oh wait. That's pretty cool. Wait, maybe I should just emit some more smoke. Oh yeah, okay, so now they stick around. Hey, how are these guys fading out? Cool. Yeah, it's super long-winded, I know. But that's how it goes. I'm not a pro at streaming, yo. Now let's, for example, and is that better? Maybe the other way around. Yeah, why not? So yeah, you see already how CSS allows even more flexibility than just pasting images on the canvas. Like, we didn't know already, but you know, for example, of course the go-to example, but it's not gonna work because my animation is messing that up. Is it though? Interesting. Yeah, I had a little bit of a tweak, and it's not perfect, but you could simulate fire with it. It's a bit hard to see because of how the smoke emits right now, but let's say I've got some fiery color, and for now it's just some gradient, but then I'm animating towards brightness 0 basically, which then turns the whole image to black. So you could, yeah. So, but it opens up a lot of possibilities. And on top of that, basically, or not basically, I've started figuring out SVG filters. And now that's super cool because like the concept here is that I try to avoid using or having to, let's say, write shaders or doing super complicated stuff. And to that effect, I am using an SVG filter. And that takes the form of like this. So when you have a filter with an ID here like that in the source, you can apply it. And I was researching SVG filters because I wanted to generate noise that is not just like a noise PNG as I have here. It's transparent. But I wanted to generate it, and then I got off on a tangent, a really good tangent, and I got off so far on a tangent that I don't even remember why I wanted to generate noise like this in the first place. But I found out kind of how to combine SVG filters. It's super cool. You define, so a filter needs to be in an SVG element, and you add a FE turbulence. I forget what the E was for, with filter something entity. I guess it has different options. I don't even know what the other options here for fractal noise. Takes a bass frequency and a bunch of octaves, and you can give it a random seed. It'll store the result in something called turbulence, in this case, whatever you put in there. And then you put in a displacement map, which takes a turbulence, and what is called the source graphic. The source graphic is basically the element that you applied this filter to, which in the demo, I'll show you, is the car itself. Because when I saw this happen, I was like, hey, now we can do, for example, heat haze. Let me turn on debug mode. As you can see here, you can actually see how... Oh, shit. Wait, I could have done smarter. Yeah, this is super cool technology, and if I can find it in Inkscape, I always avoided it because I thought the UI was a bit weird and I didn't understand it. There we go. Okay. So yeah, this is what the turbulence looks like. So I should be able to... What was the other... Ooh, morphology. I'm not... Ooh, imagine this. I suppose it needs to be low for us to see. Oh, oh no, frequency could be high, I suppose. See how it's... Yeah, I suppose you could also emulate drunk driving with this. So I think that's super cool. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with all this. It took a bit of work. It still needs a lot of polishing, but I'm just having too much fun learning ways to do things. Yeah. Okay. I don't know anymore. Bye.